Welcome to Cheat Masters. Let's dive into today's story. I never saw it coming. Kimberly and I had been together for nearly a decade. We had built a life side by side. Our home, our daily routines, and the quiet, unspoken comfort that comes with knowing someone inside and out. At least, that's what I thought. Then one evening, as we sat on the couch after dinner, she turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite read and said, "I don't feel happy anymore." I froze, my fork halting midway to my mouth. A small, confused chuckle escaped me. "What do you mean?" I asked, setting my plate aside. She sighed, looking down at her hands. "I don't know. I just feel different." Different? That was an explanation. It was a puzzle. I leaned forward, searching for meaning in her words. "Is it me? Did I do something wrong? Are you stressed? What's changed?" She only shrugged, her gaze distant. "I don't know. I just need space." A heavy weight settled in my chest. Space. I had heard those words before, from friends who had lost their relationships. It was never just space. It was the beginning of the end. But I refused to accept that. I convinced myself it was just a phase, something temporary that would pass. So instead of arguing, I simply asked, "What do you need from me?" "I just need time," she murmured. And with that, everything shifted. I wasn't ready to let go. I refused to believe this was the end. There had to be a reason, something I was missing, so I fought for her. I planned date nights, surprised her with flowers, left little love notes in her purse, and cooked her favorite meals. I asked about her day with genuine interest and listened intently when she spoke. I even took time off work to be with her, thinking maybe I had been too distracted, maybe I had taken her for granted. But none of it worked. No matter what I did, she remained distant. Her smiles were polite, not heartfelt. She let me hold her hand, but her fingers no longer curled around mine the way they used to. When I kissed her, she kissed me back, but it felt empty, like she wasn't really there. I started noticing the little things. The way she checked her phone more often, subtly turned the screen away from me. The way she sighed when I asked if she was okay, as if exhausted by the question. The hesitation before saying, "I love you," as if the words no longer belonged to her. One night, I put together everything I could think of: a candlelit dinner, soft music playing in the background, an atmosphere of warmth and love. I went all out. She sat across from me at the table, absently stirring her food, barely taking a bite. Then out of nowhere she spoke. "You don't have to do all this." I set my fork down. "I want to." She exhaled slowly, as if carrying a weight I couldn't see. "Greg, I told you, I just need space." I stared at her, something inside me cracking. Space from what? From me. She didn't answer. And in that silence, I found my answer. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, her back turned, as if I were just a stranger sharing the same space. I had done everything I could, given everything I had, but if she wasn't sure whether she still wanted me, then why was I the only one fighting? So I stopped. I stopped texting her throughout the day, stopped checking in, stopped asking if she was okay, stopped planning surprises, stopped trying to make her feel special. I still loved her, but I wasn't going to beg for her attention anymore. And that's when something strange happened. She noticed. At first, it was subtle. She started texting me in the middle of the day, "Where are you?" when before she barely acknowledged my absence. She called me at work just to check in. Then she started asking about my day, when just days ago she had barely responded when I asked about hers. She began waiting up for me when I got home late, glancing up from the couch like she had been expecting me hours earlier. One evening, to be continued, I stepped into the kitchen to grab a drink, only to find her standing by the counter, watching me intently. "You've been really distant lately," she murmured, her voice softer than usual. Taking a sip of my water, I shrugged. "I'm just giving you the space you asked for." She blinked, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something flicker in her expression. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. She hadn't expected this. At first, she pretended it didn't bother her. She convinced herself I was just sulking, trying to get back at her. But as time went on, I saw the shift. Restlessness crept in. She started making an effort. She suggested watching our favorite shows together, lingered near me as I moved through the house, even brought home my favorite takeout, something she hadn't done in months. Then one evening, as I sat on the couch, scrolling through my phone, she hesitated before lowering herself onto the cushion beside me. "Do you still love me?" Her voice was barely more than a whisper. I turned to face her, keeping my expression unreadable. "Why are you asking me that now?" She blinked, caught off guard. "I just feel like we're growing apart," she admitted. A small chuckle escaped me. "You're the one who wanted space. I'm just respecting that." And that's when I saw it, the regret. She had assumed I would wait, that I would fight for her, hold on no matter what. She never imagined I would stop chasing her. But something still felt off. Her regret wasn't just about me. It ran deeper. She was hiding something. Then one night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter before heading to the shower. It vibrated once. Then again. I wasn't searching for anything. I wasn't that kind of person. But my eyes landed on the screen. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't touch the phone, didn't move. For a long moment, I simply stood there, everything clicking into place. She hadn't needed space. She had wanted options. She was testing the waters with someone else while keeping me as her safety net. And now that she felt me slipping away, she was scrambling to reel me back in. But it was too late. The moment I saw that message, something inside me shifted. The illusion shattered. I hadn't been looking for proof. Hadn't gone through her phone, hadn't snooped. But there it was, the truth, plain as day. I stood there, staring at the screen, my pulse steady. No rush of anger, no urge to confront her. Instead, a strange sense of calm settled over me, like I had just placed a final piece of a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was solving. Without a word, I set her phone down and walked away. Minutes later, she stepped out of the bathroom, towel dry in her hair, completely unaware that I knew everything. She passed by me with a small smile, as if we were just another couple in an ordinary marriage. It almost made me laugh. Over the next few days, I stayed in the house, not because I was unsure, not because I needed time to think, but because I was meeting with a lawyer, setting the wheels in motion for divorce. I made sure everything was in place, every detail accounted for. And in those days, something changed. I stopped caring. I no longer asked how she was feeling. I didn't check in, didn't pay attention to her movements, didn't wait for her to acknowledge me. The crushing weight I had been carrying for weeks, gone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I simply didn't care. She had made her decision. Now I was making mine. If she spoke to me, I barely responded. If she was in the room, I didn't acknowledge her. If she sat next to me, I didn't shift away, but I didn't react either. I wasn't ignoring her to punish her. She just no longer mattered. And she felt it, the shift in the air, the way I moved through the house as if she wasn't even there, the absence of my attention. She started watching me, paying attention in a way she hadn't in months. But it was too late. I saw it in her eyes, the slow realization that she had gone too far, that she had miscalculated, that she had underestimated me. And then one evening, I stood in the bedroom, packing a suitcase with quiet precision. Each item folded neatly, every essential gathered without hesitation. There was no urgency, no anger, just finality. Kimberly stepped into the doorway, her movements hesitant, arms wrapping around herself like a shield. "What are you doing?" Her voice was quiet, unsure. I didn't pause, didn't acknowledge the waver in her tone. She swallowed hard. For how long? Zipping the suitcase closed, I finally turned to face her. For good. Her eyes widened, blinking rapidly as if struggling to process my words. "Greg, come on. Don't do this." A short, humorless laugh escaped me. "I'm not the one who did this. Kimberly, you are." Panic flickered across her face. "I don't understand." I tilted my head slightly. I saw the message. She went rigid. "What?" I met her gaze, unimpressed. "On your phone. The one you were careless enough to leave unlocked. Then, in a steady, even voice, I repeated the words that had shattered everything. I miss you. When can I see you again? Her mouth opened, then shut, scrambling for an excuse that wouldn't come. Greg, I lifted a hand, cutting her off. Don't. It doesn't matter anymore. Grabbing my suitcase, I brushed past her. She followed. Her footsteps hurried, panic rising. Wait, where are you going? I didn't slow. I told you, I'm leaving. She looked stricken, like the air had been knocked out of her. I don't want us to fall apart, she admitted, voice barely a whisper. At the front door, I hesitated, hand on the handle, then turned back to her one last time. We didn't fall apart, Kimberly. You walked away. Now I'm doing the same. Tears welled in her eyes. She reached out, fingers trembling as they caught my arm. Please, I don't want to lose you. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had once been my everything. The one I had believed in, trusted. The one who thought I would always be there, no matter what. You already did. And then I walked out. I didn't stop, didn't wait for her to come running after me. As the door clicked shut behind me, I heard her sob. But for the first time in a long time, it didn't matter, because I was free. The next morning, I filed for divorce. Found a quiet apartment across town, not extravagant, but mine, a fresh start. Over the following days, I packed the rest of my belongings, signed the final papers, and left that house behind. Kimberly didn't fight me on it. Maybe she thought I was bluffing, that I'd come back eventually. I didn't. For months, I focused on rebuilding. Work, the gym, rediscovering the hobbies I had abandoned in our marriage. And eventually, I started dating again. At first, it felt strange, sitting across from someone who wasn't Kimberly, learning their quirks, their stories. But it was also refreshing. I was finally living for myself. Then, 6 months after divorce was finalized, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I had been lacing up my sneakers, getting ready for the gym, when the sound echoed through my apartment. When I opened the door, I froze. Kimberly stood there, but she wasn't the same woman I had left behind. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, dark circles beneath tired eyes. She stood with her hands clasped in front of her, like she was holding herself together. Hey, she said softly. I exhaled, already knowing where this was headed. Hey! She shifted on her feet, glancing around as if taking in my new life. Can I come in? I considered it for a moment, then stepped aside. She walked in, scanning the space, her movements uncertain, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. I asked, Why are you here, Kimberly? She swallowed, staring at the floor before finally meeting my eyes. I needed to see you, to talk. I said nothing. She took a shaky breath. I made a mistake, Greg. I tilted my head slightly, waiting. I thought I needed something else, something different. But nothing worked. The guy I was seeing, I ended it. Tried dating again, but nothing lasted. She took a step closer, her voice pleading. And then I realized it was you. It was always you. A slow breath left me. I rubbed a hand over my jaw. Kimberly, please, just hear me out, she cut in, desperation leaking into her voice. I was stupid. I ruined everything. But I swear I see it now. I see what I lost. I studied her, letting her words settle. Then, finally, I shook my head. I moved on, Kimberly. She flinched, like the words physically hurt. Greg, please, she whispered. No, my tone was firm but calm. You walked away. And for months, I tried to figure out what I did wrong. But now I know I wasn't the problem. You were. Tears welled in her eyes. I miss you, she choked out. I sighed, stepping toward the door. You should go. She didn't move at first, just stood there, lips parted, as if wanting to argue, to beg. But I had nothing left to give her. Finally, she nodded, wiping at her eyes. As she stepped past me, she hesitated in the doorway. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't respond. And then she walked out of my life for good. I shut the door, locked it, then I took a deep breath. For the first time since it all began, I felt at peace. Because, in the end, I won.